Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Grace Holland. The city of Raleigh announced a new change to the Christmas Parade in the wake of Hailey Brooks' death in the 2022 parade. This year, all participants will have to sign a waiver releasing the city from blame if they are hurt or killed in the parade. WRAL's Sean Gallegher joins me. Sean, thanks for being here.
Yeah, of course, Grace.
So you've been following the updates with this new waiver that's been released, but if you don't mind, can you take us back to how this all started and what happened to Hailey Brooks a year ago 2 years ago this week?
Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people in this area will remember it like it's yesterday, really. 2 years ago on Hillsborough Street, really at almost the very beginning of the parade route, there was a driver of a truck who says he lost control and he hit Hailey Brooks, who was there with part of her dance group, ready to, ring in the holiday season as part of this annual tradition in Raleigh. A lot of her friends with her, that dance group. And unfortunately, her life ended that day. And, it's been a ripple effect throughout the city, really the area, about the dangers that could occur during something where people feel so safe and, feel ready to, enjoy a very happy and memorable moment.
Right. And what have been the evolving changes in how parades have been handled in the city since her death?
Yeah, so we just learned within, the last couple of months that they've added some new safety protocols. For the first time since her death, they are going to allow vehicles back in the parade. You may remember last year it was just people on foot. No vehicles were going to be allowed, but they've since amended that. But there are some restrictions there. Those vehicles that are going to be in this parade, they need to have a safety inspection within 30 days of that parade. And then the people who are behind the wheel, they have to be at least 25 years old. So a couple of small steps, but things the city felt was important in order for people in the parade to feel safe.
Right. And those changes and different ripple effects, I guess, from Hailey Brooks' death have not just been limited to these changes within the city. There's also been some legal action from her family. So where do those cases stand?
Yeah, so I spoke to the family's attorney a little bit earlier today. They did not want to get too into the case details since it is open litigation. They didn't want to do anything to disrupt that. But they tell me that, they are still a long way away from this being resolved, that they're still waiting for a response from the city, who just last month was added on to this lawsuit that the family has for someone to take responsibility for Hailey's death.
Okay, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Sean, as you mentioned before the break, the city's, kind of made different changes to parades over the last couple of years. This is the first time vehicles are being allowed back in. This waiver, of course, is new. So what does that say?
So essentially, it just boils it down that if anything happens to anyone who's participating in the parade, that they can't sue the city. It does have specific language in there saying that, the signee, the person participating in the parade, needs to acknowledge that, participating in a parade involves the risk of injury or death. They also, right here, kind of list some of those risks, including but not limited to inclement weather or excessive heat, injuries from motor vehicles or floats, risks from trips or falls, and that kind of information there, to have that right in the middle, injuries from motor vehicles or floats, that's sounding alarms that, this is something that, is a reaction to what happened to Hailey, somebody who was participating in this that, was impacted. And, she lost her life here. And this essentially says that if this were to happen again, God forbid, that, the family, they would not be able to take legal action against the city. I think the point here is that, if God forbid someone lost their loved one and, they want to have some sort of resolution here, finance is not going to bring back their loved one, but, that's largely what happens in these lawsuits, is that there's some sort of, monetary payment, a settlement of some sort. The city is the one who would have, the largest pockets for something like that, to try to make a family, feel whole again. By the city having this waiver, it takes them out of the equation. I talked to two different legal analysts today, a professor from NC Central that says, this essentially would take the city off the hook, that they would not be held responsible if another person is hurt, injured, or killed at this year's parade or anyone in the future.
Right. And given that this is a direct result of Brooks's death, have you been able to get a sense from her family or her attorney, who I know you said you spoke to earlier on Wednesday? Have they weighed in on that change?
Yeah, well, first of all, their attorney, I asked, how's the family feeling about this? And honestly, they haven't had a second to think about, what a waiver means or doesn't mean. They are, it was just on Tuesday that they were remembering their little girl who died 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's where their focus has been. But, from the family attorney's standpoint, he just thinks that it's a terrible message to send, that they are releasing a waiver like this for participants to, it's about protecting the city, not protecting the participants, is how they feel. That, they want the focus to be on safety for participants, safety for people who are here watching the parade. They think that, it's again in poor taste that this is what the city is looking at, rather than, increased protections outside of the ones that we've already mentioned.
And talking to those experts that you talked to earlier, how common is it to have a waiver like this for parades or just events in general?
Yeah, so I talked to a law professor at NC Central, Irving Joyner. He says, from what he reads on this, it's pretty standard. It's kind of like that boilerplate legal waiver that you might sign if you're going to like a rock climbing gym, if you're playing paintball somewhere, those things that have inherent risk. The way that he reads it is that, this is pretty similar language that you might sign if you go there. It just so happens that this is for a Christmas parade, not for something where you're running around and being active.
And for people that are coming to the parade just to watch it as spectators, are there any other changes that people are going to need to be aware of when they come for that?
From a perspective of what the city is doing to make this safe for people, they may not notice the safety protocols that I've noted here. They're not going to notice that, the cars have been inspected or that the driver's 25 years old or anything like that. But one thing that everyone should keep in mind is that, if they're hearing about this waiver, this is strictly for the people who are going to be between the curbs walking this parade route. It has nothing to do with the people who are on the sidewalks trying to enjoy themselves. Those people, God forbid, again, if something should happen, they could still hold the city accountable. So that's something to keep in mind, is that, as you watch this, the waiver doesn't protect you from something happening either. You need to keep your head on a swivel and, keep your mind right that, anything could happen. I moved here from Wisconsin just a few months ago, where we had to deal with a Christmas parade tragedy not too far from Milwaukee, where 6 people were killed. So, it's just, this waiver should serve as a reminder to people that, you need to stay aware. You never know what could happen. But at the end of the day, you always take your own safety into your own hands.
Yep, absolutely good advice there, Sean. Thank you so much, and thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.